Hi everyone, I'm Annie Douglas, the Chief Mom Ambassador at Moms Meet. Thank you for joining us today for the Honest Kids webinar, where you'll hear directly from Seth Goldman, the co-founder and TeaEO of Honest Tea. He will be talking about the benefits of organic foods and the importance of sustainability. Plus, you'll learn all about how Honest Tea began. So if you have any questions during the presentation for Seth, then please be sure to type them into the chat window, and we'll take some time at the end to answer all your questions. With that said, Seth, please take it away.
Thank you, Annie, and hi, everybody. It's so nice to be with you. I'm looking forward to sharing some reflections. Honest Tea is a company I started 15 years ago out of my house with my wife and 3 sons all around it, so it still feels very much like a family enterprise. And I want to share with you both some of the background of what we've been building as a company and as an organization promoting healthy products, but also some thoughts on parenting and helping to raise healthy kids as something I've been doing along the way. Or maybe I've been running the company along the way as I've been focused on raising 3 healthy kids. So I thought it would be first interesting to take a step back and share with you some slides from a trip I took to China a few years ago. As you know, we started as a tea company, and so I do get out to the gardens, and it's always important for me to reconnect with the source and the communities that we buy our product from, and in particular, these slides help bring out a lesson that it helps enlighten me for our product, but it also helps enlighten me as a parent too, and I thought it might be helpful for you. So I had flown a long way and driven a long way and then flown again and driven again. Eventually, as you can see in this slide, our car came to the end of the road and it was time to get out. But I was certainly, I thought I was there to see tea bushes. So having traveled so far, I admit I was probably a little impatient, like, where are the tea bushes? And my host led me down a path, and instead of coming to tea bushes, we came to a river. And so I looked at the river, and I still didn't see any tea bushes. And so I said, well, we are here to see tea bushes, aren't we? And they said, well, yes, the tea bushes are across the river. And so, like probably any good Westerner, I said, well, where's the bridge? Because if we're supposed to get across the river, there's got to be when we're involved in commerce, we need to find a way to get across. And so they gave me a few interesting reasons why there's no bridge. So first of all, they said, number one, we're a poor community. We can't just put up a bridge just because that may be the economically expedient thing to do. Number two, there's a lot of flooding in this part of China, so the bridge might be underwater during one season and far away from the land during another season. And then number three, they said it's an organic farm, so there's no need for heavy equipment. No, large bags of chemicals aren't needed. But the most interesting thing they said was that if we build a bridge, then there'll be a need for, we'll have roads, and with roads there'll be infrastructure, and with infrastructure there'll be pollution. So instead of the bridge, this man comes up in a bamboo raft, and got our feet a little bit wet, but we ended up in the tea garden. And so for me, it was a very interesting lesson out of it, which was I saw this river, and I saw no bridge, and I thought that the lack of a bridge was a problem. But for this community in China, whereas we know there's so much runaway development, not having the bridge was their solution. Their challenge was, how do you protect this community? How do you protect this treasure, this tea garden that's free of any pollutants and any contaminants? And for them, not having a bridge was a solution. And so for me, it kind of made me think about a lot of things differently. So obviously, one of them is agriculture, and we can, as we all know, whether it's pests or weeds or weeds or fungus, those are thought of as problems. And so one quote-unquote solution is to use chemical pesticides or other biotechnology to address them. But just like so many quote-unquote solutions, those solutions may create other problems. And then I carry it further. My oldest son is dyslexic. And so I remember at the time, my wife and I were really struggling when he was in elementary school. He was having trouble learning, and at the time we didn't know it was dyslexia, but we did meet with a doctor who said, well, he should be on these different medications, and we were not interested in following that course. But the quote-unquote, the medications would have been a quote-unquote solution for a quote-unquote problem. and over the long term, what we realize is that, this initial challenge he has is a remarkable gift, and he sees the world in a very different way, and he's actually now a sophomore in college and just blossoming, with honors grades. And so often what we see as problems can be thought of differently. And so that was certainly the case with this bridge in China. It's certainly how we think about agriculture and what can be done with organics. And as you see in this picture here, these are tea bushes. This is in actually just about, this time of year was when this picture was taken. And so the tea bushes are not yet what's called in the first flush, when the new leaves come out. But tea leaves are evergreen bushes, and every spring new leaves come out, and the tea pickers pick the top leaves, and that's what we make into tea. The other thing that's interesting to note about tea is that it's one of the few agricultural products that's never rinsed. So if I pick an apple or a tomato and I want to get the surface chemicals off, I can rinse it or I can peel it and they'll come off. But with tea leaves, since they're never rinsed, the first time any chemicals that are sprayed on leaves would be washed off is when the tea leaves are brewed, and that's in effect what you'd be washing into the drink. So another reason why for us organics is important. And then of course, the understanding that any chemicals sprayed on tea leaves also go into the ecosystems and go into the bodies of the people picking the tea leaves. Just to give you another sense of, there's a little bit of product placement. We want to make sure they knew who we were. And to give you a sense, it's still a very basic agricultural level in this community. So the fields still are being handled with not electric equipment. And then just quickly to share with you another beautiful shot of a tea garden. This is from a tea garden in India, down in southern India. And we buy our green teas from China and our black teas from India. So just a few pictures from the tea gardens. Okay, so away from the tea gardens into where my mind was 15 years ago. So I've always considered myself an activist, and I still don't necessarily think of myself as a businessman. And so 15 years ago, if you had told me I would be creating an enterprise that was going to help eliminate billions of calories from the American diet and support the growth of organic agriculture and promote recycling and help develop upcycling solutions, I would have said, that sounds very exciting. What's the name of the nonprofit or government entity that I would be leading? I would never have guessed that it would actually be a beverage company, and I certainly would never have guessed that beverage company would end up being part of the Coca-Cola company, and we'll talk some more about that. But for us, we talk about Honest Tea as a mission-driven company. We think about our missions around spreading healthy nutrition, sustainable agriculture, and both sustainable commerce as well as fair trade. And so for us, this is all part of what we think about when we engage in building this company. To go back a little bit more into our history, this next slide shows you this is actually an excerpt from a book, and depending on how old your children are, this book may be of interest to you. This is a book that'll be coming out this September. It's called Mission in the Bottle, and the authors or the co-authors are me and my co-founder Barry, and you'll see us in each corner of this page that's excerpted here. And the way the story starts is that I was Barry's student in his business school class. And so we talked about all the beverage drinks, all the drinks that are on the market, and yet despite the fact that there were hundreds of drinks out there, there wasn't one that we felt met what we were looking for, which was a less sweet drink. And so 280 pages later, we built it into a beverage company, and that's the story that we share in the book. And just going back, you might guess, as I've talked about my oldest son being dyslexic, what motivated me to write this book was that because he's dyslexic, he loves visual imagery, and so he was always bringing around comic books, and we would read them together, everything from Asterix and Obelix to Tintin, and then up into superheroes. And at the same time, I would be trying to read, some of these very dense business books. And so one day I finally said, this business book is so boring, and my son's book is so much more engaging. Why can't we connect? Why can't we take a business book and make it into a comic book? And so that's what Mission in a Bottle is. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about the challenges of building a brand when you do things differently. And as you may know, we have a product called Honest Kids. And it's a drink pouch that has 40 calories per pouch. And I don't think, it's a little embarrassing to share this email, but I have to because I want to help you appreciate that it's not always easy. This is an email we got shortly after the product hit the market, and someone said, I tried your juice pouch this morning. I must say it is terrible. It tastes like water with a drop of real fruit juice and no sugar at all. If you're forcing healthy stuff down after it, we'll stop it. Kids are going to hate this stuff. And that is a real challenge. When we brought out Honest Kids, the average drink pouch had 100 calories per pouch. And so we brought out a drink pouch with 40 calories per pouch. And so it was dramatically less sweet. And there were certainly some customers, both parents and kids, who said this just isn't sweet enough. And yet for us, we felt it was important to offer a drink that could be refreshing and hydrating without as much sugar. And what we found is that while it's clearly not for everybody, there are certain kids who really develop an appreciation for it. And I'll say certain kids, but actually the line has continued to grow. It's now more than a third of our business, so it's really caught on. And what's so nice about that is that when kids can develop an appetite for a drink with less sugar during their school, their elementary school years, that appetite, that palate can stay with them. And so, obviously, I know this is a community of people concerned about healthy diets continuously. You don't just want to have, we know that the big triggers for parents to choose organic products is getting pregnant and having kids. But the idea isn't that, kids will only have organic when they're eating baby food, that it should really continue to the extent we can make healthy choices available to them. And so that's one of the, while that's a challenge, there are also rewards. And here's an example of an email we got from somebody who bought the product, trying to find it on the West Coast, and references the daughter, 6-year-old daughter, loved the drink. She had type 1 diabetes since she was 2 years old. And what a dream to have affordable product with a good taste and only 10 carbs per pouch. And so clearly there are a group of people who have appreciated what we're doing with Honest Kids. And so it's been exciting for us to see that product line grow and expand into different varieties, into different packages, and I'll share some more about that. But it's been a very, and by the way, this product line started with my middle son. I used to be the one who packed his lunches for his lunchbox. He's now in college also, but I was packing his lunch one day and he said, Daddy, I see where you're putting these very sweet drink pouches in my lunchbox, but you're selling healthy drinks to grown-ups. How come I can't have a drink like that? And so he was absolutely right, and he sort of caught me red-handed, and so that was part of what led to the growth of Honest Kids. So I want to talk a little bit about Honest Tea's evolution. 5 years ago, the Coca-Cola company invested in our company, and at the time, in February of 2008, we were in 15,000 stores. And since then, we've grown to be in more than 100,000 stores, and our product is now distributed in all kinds of places where it wasn't before. And so I want to just share with you a little bit about the decision and our viewpoint on it, and what we see ahead. So first of all, clearly, that decision was an important one for our business, and there was a risk associated with it because, we all know Coca-Cola is not known for their organic or necessarily even their low sugar products, and here we are offering a company that had that. And but in a way, that's one of the reasons why the relationship continues to work so well, because we're offering them something that is very different from what they offer every day. And they recognize there are changes happening, in people's diets and the way people think about sustainability. And it's been so wonderful that we've continued to run the enterprise from Bethesda, Maryland, which is where I'm speaking from. And we have our own team of people. So, somebody asked me the other day, well, how have you changed Coca-Cola? I said, well, 5 years ago, there were no organic or fair trade certified products on Coca-Cola trucks. And today, those products, are going into more than 100,000 stores off of the Coca-Cola distribution system. So, very clearly, just the fact that we call it democratizing organics, and being able to put these lower sugar organic drinks within reach of people, not just in the natural food stores, which we love and continue to look at as the foundation of our business, but to also find those drinks in CVS and in Kroger and in convenience stores and in Target. That for us, this is a great way to expand our mission and our impact. And it also leads to expansion of our mission in terms of the changes we make. So in 2007, we were buying about 800,000 pounds of organic ingredients. In 2012, we bought more than 5 million pounds. And you can see the same kind of scale of increase both with fair trade premiums that we pay back to the gardens as well as our fair trade purchases. And we expect that growth to continue. So what happens is, if you go back to those the gardens, the tea gardens that I was talking about at the beginning, I was just in Sri Lanka last year, and it was the first time I'd seen tea gardens that had been organic that converted away from organic back to conventional. And so that's, from my point of view, always a loss. They were doing it for economic reasons. Organic does cost more to make, and it does have lower yields because you can't use pesticides to control, or chemicals to control everything. And so from our perspective, we want to do everything we can to increase demand and support for organic agriculture and organic ecosystems. And so the more we can grow our business, the more we're helping to develop that infrastructure of organic agriculture. And so the scale that we're able to now take it to is really significant and exciting. Let me just share a little bit some thoughts around local nutrition, and in this case with respect to kids. This is a picture of the school my sons attended here in Bethesda, Maryland, and this is a kind of anecdote. So I was actually chairman of the PTA's fundraising drive for the school when it got modernized, and we did everything from putting in that sculpture you see in the front to a whole bunch of environmentally friendly enhancements. But on the very first day of school, my middle son came home and says, "Dad, the school." I said, "How's the school?" So it's really neat. He says, "But there's a soda machine in the basement, right next to the gym where we line up." And I couldn't believe it. How was it possible that in an elementary school there was a soda machine? And sure enough, there was. And it was, I asked the principal about it. And at first I was like, "Did I do something wrong?" But she just said she needed money to support her activities. And so we had a long dialogue, and eventually they switched over to juice. But it was just an interesting lesson that there are always challenges, no matter what we do, with our kids at home. There's always going to be challenges about how we, what happens once they get beyond home, where we can't control everything they do. And of course, since that time, this was back in the early 2000s. Since that time, the American Beverage Association and the larger companies have pulled all soda machines out of public schools, and there are still machines in high schools, but there shouldn't be any soda vending machines or even sweet drink vending machines in regular schools. But I think part of it is, there's access, but there's also this issue of just making these products available and accessible. And so one of the things we just did this year is we actually evolved our Honest Kids line. So initially, Honest Kids was at 40 calories, and it was sweetened with organic cane sugar. And sometimes people would say, "Well, how come you've got sugar in there? It should be all juice." And I said, "Well, if you put it in all juice, it's going to be 100 calories, which is, just as sweet as other, soda or other drinks you may not want your kid to consume." So what we just did this year is we actually evolved Honest Kids so that now it's only sweetened with juice. So I want to be honest, I don't want to try to tell you that one of them is nutritionally superior to the other. There's still 40 calories, whether it's sweetened with sugar or sweetened with juice. But from a parent's perspective, we know when a parent looks at an ingredient panel, for them to see juice as the first ingredient, that looks better than if it's sugar is the first ingredient. And so for us to do that, we had to buy a lot of organic kosher white grape juice, and we managed to do that. And then we just brought out Honest Kids in a larger bottle as well. It's with a 59-ounce bottle. And just to help share with you, how it's different. It is, first of all, organic, and it has, as you'll see, significantly less calories than a lot of the other drinks out there, as well as having vitamin C. One of the things that we did when we were launching Honest Kids is we wanted to try to find a way for the pouch to be recyclable. Because all the bottles we sell are recyclable. And unfortunately, the way pouches are designed, there's that foil, they call it a gusset, I don't know, it's a sort of foil connecting point underneath that is not recyclable. And so what we worked with a company called TerraCycle to create pouch brigades in which kids and nonprofits and local community organizations could collect pouches and send them in, and then they would be upcycled into whether it's binders or pencil cases, some of the items you see here. And although Honest Tea is still a relatively small player in this category, a lot of the larger companies joined us, and as a result, more than 155 million pouches have been taken out of the waste stream as a result of these partnerships. So it's nice to feel that our model can help lead to change in a broader way. And then just this spring, we're launching a product called Honest Splash. And so Honest Splash is very similar to Honest Kids in its formulation, but the difference is it's in a 12-ounce bottle. And so this is a product, we recognize the pouch drink, while it works well in a lunchbox, it doesn't always work well with older kids who don't necessarily want to be seen drinking a pouch drink or who may not think of themselves as kids anymore. And so Honest Splash is designed to be a lower sugar organic juice drink for older kids and going up into adults as well. And we've just launched that exclusively in Target. It's sold in 6-packs in Target. And then we also think about innovation. So how do we grow? We started with tea, and we realized as we grew that while we thought tea, when we started, we thought tea was the most important part of our name, we recognized that actually the word honest was the most important part of our name, and that led to not just Honest Tea, but also a line of juice drinks called Honest Aid, and we've talked about Honest Kids. And then just this year, we also introduced a new line called Honest Fizz. And these are zero-calorie, naturally sweetened sodas. You can see there's a lemon lime, there's an orange, there's something called Professor Fizz, which is sort of a dark cherry, and then there's a root beer. And the root beer is the first organically sweetened or certified organic zero-calorie soda. And the sweeteners we use are stevia and erythritol, which is a zero-calorie sugar alcohol. And these are, you can find these now at Whole Foods, and they're just starting to go out beyond Whole Foods. But we've been very excited by the response we've gotten to those drinks. It's really been very positive. And it's interesting because we had to have a discussion. We never thought of ourselves certainly as a soda company. But when we were talking about, well, if you can make a zero-calorie drink, what's objectionable about it? And it's just bubbles. There's really no, it's obviously the chemicals they're flavorings, but they're naturally derived plant-based flavoring. So it's just a fun way to be able to get some of the taste of soda, but in a way that can be naturally sweetened. And so we're excited to see that line launch. So I have some closing thoughts, but I thought rather than get right to those, why don't we open it up for questions? And Annie, if you want to help me with that, I'd be happy to take some questions.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much. That was a great presentation, Seth, and we definitely have a lot of great questions coming in. One of the questions that we could kind of start with is about how you originally started the company. Like, how did you come up with the name Honest Tea?
Yeah. This is, I have to give credit to my co-founder, Barry. He's a very creative person. He's still a professor at the Yale School of Management. And he's somebody who always is playing around with words. And, some of his ideas are a little off the wall, but some of them are brilliant. And this was one where Honest Tea, which could also be a play on the word honesty, just really clicked. And as soon as he said it, for me, it connected with all my background. I've been involved in socially responsible business, and I ran a nonprofit, and I worked on Capitol Hill. So I'd always had that public mindset. And this was an automatic way to connect the values that I have and feel deeply with a for-profit enterprise.
Right, yeah, definitely, that makes sense. And you had talked about the Coca-Cola company, purchasing, investing in your company. So we have some questions from moms who are asking, do they have any say in what goes into the, into the beverages? How much say do they have?
No, I'd say, from our perspective, we're the ones, we do the formulations. We have a little kitchen here in Bethesda, and when I say little, it's, sort of 4 feet, maybe 3 feet across. So believe it or not, we do all of our formulations here. We make them at other bottling plants, but, where Coca-Cola has been helpful is obviously to make sure that our product is safe, that it's produced at bottling plants that are high quality. And then, for example, with Honest Kids, when we did that reformulation to move it only to juice sweetener, we could only do that when we had enough of the supply secured. And Honest Tea on its own as a little company, there's no way we could have locked in as much organic kosher white grape juice as we did as part of the Coca-Cola company. So they really help us, but they don't dictate ingredients to us. They don't, they make sure all of our label language is compliant, so we're not, so we have to run it that way, but we don't, there's no, they're not making recipes for us or writing label copy. Barry and I still do that.
Okay, great. And some moms are commenting on just like the bright, beautiful colors of the beverages. So how do you get those colors? I mean, are there any artificial coloring that's added?
There are definitely not any artificial colors, but there are some ways we can help bring out the color of the ingredients. And so, because one of the challenges is, for example, we have a lemonade, and when we make it, it's nice and pink, but once it sits exposed to light, it will fade, especially if it's sunlight. So we actually have found a natural ingredient called purple carrot, which is, as it suggests, a purple carrot. And what our supplier does is they take that carrot and they grind it into powder. So that is an all-natural way to create a color. And so it's a color enhancement, but it's totally natural and meets the standards. But we're not allowed, not that we would want to, we're not allowed to use any artificial ingredients in order when we have the certified organic seal.
Okay, great. And could you just talk about ingredients and where they're sourced from? I mean, you talked about your trip to China, but could you kind of expand on that a bit?
Sure. Yeah. So we do source. The amazing thing about tea is it is the world's second most popular beverage. So every community around the world has some kind of tea. Whether it's an herbal peppermint tea drunk by Native Americans, or mate in South America, or in South Africa there's a red tea, which is a rooibos, which is a bush. These are herbs that are brewed to make a drink, and so we do source from all around the world. And our juices, like our white grape juice, we get from both Turkey and Argentina. The tea leaves from India, China, and then, as I said, South Africa for the red tea. We have organic honey in some of our drinks that we get from Brazil. So it really is a global supply chain.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thank you for answering that. And what could you kind of share? I mean, you've already kind of talked about why, how Honest Tea is different than others, but could you just expand on that a little bit more? What makes your Honest Kids product different than others on the market that are making similar claims?
Well, there are more similar things now than when we started, but when we started, everything was at 100 calories a pouch. And so we came out at 40 calories a pouch with an organic drink, and it was just dramatically different. And what's nice to see is that since we've been able to make our impact, other brands, other juice pouch makers have lowered the calorie content. And that's another good example of how our impact can lead to change. But for us, certainly the organics is an important point of differentiation, and it certainly follows on that concern I said about parents moving toward organic. The lower calorie profile, so it's really the lower calorie profile in the organic, and so it basically ends up with half the sugar of most of the kids' drinks on a per ounce basis. What I was struck by when my son called me on it, and I looked at the calories in the pouches at the time, most of those drink pouches had as much calories per ounce as soda. And I certainly didn't want to think I was giving my kids soda every day for lunch. And in effect, I was, just without the carbonation.
Right, right. Well, I mean, you talked about how the story of, that the soda machine, in the schools. And could you just kind of give some tips to parents who, might want to approach that topic with their schools? I mean, what is the best way to go about that?
I'm sorry, what is?
How can parents?
How can parents deal with it? Yeah. I'll tell you, given, so where our kids go to, it's a relatively affluent neighborhood, and it's not, and so, and obviously my beverage and the beverage background, and the fact that despite all those things, the principal still felt the need to bring in a beverage machine, and she couldn't get rid of it because she had locked herself into this long-term contract. I was just blown away by it. So I think the best thing parents can do is try to be preemptive and talk to the teacher about, hey, do you need extra resources? Are there things that we can do to help you do what you want to do? And I remember one of the parents said, look, if she wants a slush fund, let's give her a slush fund. Just don't have it be funded by these sweet drinks. So first of all, like I said, most schools now don't have these vending machines in them. That's been a directive that they've taken. But I do think it's always good for parents to be proactive and to be talking with the teachers about what can they do to help support and supplement, healthy activities at the school. And it doesn't just have to be going on during the school day. One of the things that we did at my son's school was they had a morning workout before assembly. One of the gym teachers was able to do that. And that was just a nice way for the kids to get active in order to sort of have their heart rate up before the school day started. And to get out, frankly, at least for my boys, to get out some of their energy. So by the time the first class started, they'd already run around a bit.
Right. Yeah, that's great. We have a comment from Lauren who's saying that, she's wondering if you could make your kids' juice pouches a little easier to open. She says it takes us a while to get that straw in there.
Oh, Lauren, I feel your frustration. It's a challenge because that pouch is, we used to have a little hole on the pouch where people would put it in, but then some people would poke through on that. It's kind of an imperfect design, and we say it's sort of the worst design except for all the others. There's just not a good, lightweight, environmentally efficient way to make a pouch accessible for kids. So we actually did it on our website. We have a little illustration, and on the box too, we now illustrate. There is a way to do it that works 98% of the time. It's a technique, and once you get it, you're good. But it's still not. I was going to say it's not foolproof. It's not parent-proof either, and you just have to get the hang of it. But please keep trying because it is worth it, and certainly. I'm afraid this is a characteristic of many of drink pouches, and that's another reason why Honest Splash might be welcome for some people. Certainly easier to open. It is reclosable.
Right. Well, I'm getting actually several comments about, some people have heard that other juice pouches like Capri Suns, get mold in them, and what is the shelf life of the Honest Kids pouches? And have you heard of, any issues, of getting mold in these pouches? How long would these pouches last?
Yeah, they last at least 12 months. We put on our product, we say Best Buy, and it's the Best Buy date is 12 months from the date that we make it. The fact is they're sealed products, so as long as they're made properly and there's no leakage going on, they'll last for quite a bit more than 12 months. But and it's not that they become unsafe; they may just taste a little less fresh. But 12 months is shelf life, and they're stable. One of the reasons the drinks have a tart taste to them is because you need to put acid in there to make sure that no bacteria can grow. So all of the drinks, and for this matter, any drink that is pasteurized in a sealed bottle, not milk, but other drinks, have a pH that's low enough to make sure no bacteria will grow.
Okay. Michelle is asking, why, not use juice boxes instead? What was the reason, you guys came out with pouches instead of boxes?
That's it's kind of an interesting question. It's there's a few different reasons. So number one, from a consumer perspective, and in this case I mean the kid, what we learned is that the juice boxes are kind of referred to as the toddler box. So, and it's funny, you don't think about someone doing market research with young people, and we haven't done it directly, but what we keep finding, and as we talk to people, is that once you get past 8 years old, they want to have a pouch versus the box. But then environmentally, there's an interesting aspect of just how much material it is, what is the weight, and so, some of these, from a weight perspective, the pouch is extremely effective, and what I mean by that is that it's efficient, so that 97% of that product is the liquid itself by weight. 3% of that product by weight is the pouch, so that's a very good ratio. With with the box, it's not quite as efficient. So there's a few different reasons, but that said, I think it's just mostly driven by the different sort of consumers we were trying, the kids we were trying to reach and be relevant to.
Right, right. Yeah, definitely, that makes sense. Seth, could you kind of share if there's any caffeine or anything like that in the kids' juice pouches or maybe some of the other products? Can you share a little bit about the caffeine?
Sure. Yeah, there's no caffeine in any Honest Kids product. It's all juice drinks. Honest Aid is also caffeine-free. So our tea drinks are mostly caffeinated because they are green and black tea. We do have some herbal teas, such as we have Black Forest Berry. We have a drink called Heavenly Lemon Tulsi, which is my personal favorite, and that's an herbal infusion. So those are drinks that don't have any of that, the tea plant, the bushes that you saw in China. They're different herbs that we've brewed. And then with Honest Fizz, only Professor Fizz has caffeine. The rest are caffeine-free.
Okay, great. And could you kind of share where your facilities are located? Do you give tours of your facilities, like where you produce the product?
Oh, we produce all around the country. The goal is to be environmentally, to have as light a footprint as possible. So we produce on both coasts. In the beginning, in the bad old days, we used to produce in one bottling plant in Buffalo, New York, and if we wanted to sell it in California, we'd have to ship it all the way across country. So that had a, ironic thing where we're selling this organic product that has this huge carbon footprint. So now we produce in bottling plants around the country. We don't own the bottling plants. Some of them are independently, family-owned. Others are Coca-Cola owned. But we try to, and the same with Honest Kids, we produce those in different parts of the country too. So the goal is to try to produce as close to our center of sales as we can. That way that we have to ship it. We don't have to ship it as far.
Right, right. Seth, do you have, or can you share what maybe the most popular flavors are, and maybe the kids line and also just your Honest Tea line?
Sure. The most popular variety of Honest Kids is Very, Very Good Lemonade. The most popular variety of Honest Tea is our Honey Green Tea. The most popular variety of our Honest Aid is Pomegranate Blue. And the most popular Honest Fizz variety is our root beer. I will say that personally I'm most partial to our Heavenly Lemon Tulsi, which is that I said it's an herb. It's actually a basil leaf that we've brewed into a tea. It's a basil leaf from India. It's also known as holy basil. And it's got just such a wonderful, calming, and yet refreshing taste to it.
Sounds very good. You're making me very thirsty, Seth.
I should also mention, we've heard that President Obama's favorite drink is Black Forest Berry, that's also an herbal drink.
Okay, okay. Now, Ashley is wondering if you take any flavor suggestions from your audience, or from your consumers.
I'm sorry, do we take any?
Flavor suggestions.
Oh, yes, we do. And in fact, this is a fun story, one of our more popular Honest Kids varieties is called Happily Ever After. And we created that name. We held a contest with our consumers to develop a name, and that was the one that won. We also have a tea in a glass bottle called Lori's Lemon Tea, and that was a tea that we formulated, but we didn't have a name or an art design. And in that case, Lori designed a beautiful image that we put on the label, and we named it after her. So we always welcome suggestions from our consumers, and we're at all kinds of events, sampling events, and public, community events, and so we welcome people's input, and it does make it back to Bethesda, and it'll, lead to our kitchen where we'll start playing around with things.
Great, that's great. And do you offer any gluten-free options in any of your beverages?
Everything we sell is gluten-free.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And everything we sell also is GMO-free. There's no GMOs in our product.
Great, great. We definitely have a lot of people wondering what other products you might be coming out with. Are you considering something other than beverages?
That's a good question. We have done some things with Honest Food. We retained that mark, and I expect that we'll have some Honest Food products we'll sell this year in the natural foods stores. So I'd say we're still trying to figure out the right product to make. But as you know, you might guess from the way I've been talking, Honest is not, as I said, it's not just about tea, and it's certainly not just about beverages. It's really about authentic and lower sugar, healthy products. And so that we do think there's an opportunity to make it more other products than just beverages.
Right, right. That's great. And where can people find your product?
Well, we are sold in stores like Whole Foods, but we're also sold in Safeway and in Giant and Kroger. We're also sold in Target. And so wherever you shop, I hope everybody gets the chance to ask for Honesty if they don't see it, because that's one of the ways we grow as well. You know, we're not one of these huge brands that has, is advertising everywhere. So one of the ways we get stores to carry our product is when people ask for it. So we always encourage people to do that.
That's great. And could you just share what the price point is on the Honest Kids pouches?
Yeah, Honest Kids comes in an 8-pack carton, and it's usually around $4.49. Sometimes you'll see it as low as $3.99. Sometimes it'll be as high as $4.99. It varies from store to store, but that's the general price range.
Okay, great. We have a question coming in just about, maybe in different ways that your company might be giving back to the community. Can you just share with us maybe some initiatives that you're involved in?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways. Certainly the first, one of the things we talk about is being a mission-driven company. And from our perspective, that means that everything we sell has a component that's positive. We do take seriously what we can do in the community, but we also want to make sure, even if we don't have any money to give away, we can, have a positive impact by what we're selling. So the first step for us is to market a product that has lower sugar. The next step is to make a product that has a minimal carbon footprint, and then of course with the fair trade ingredients too, is a way that we do. Every time we buy a kilo of tea leaves, we're giving back a portion of the sales to the community we source from. And we help support fair trade schools in the tea gardens. We also send back resources for these communities to invest in their own infrastructure, whether it means facilities for them to gain better access to the market. So that's an important step. But then beyond that, our main marketing is not through paid media. It's through what we call field marketing. So that means lots of engagement in community events, road races, and arts festivals. We also launched a local nonprofit here in Bethesda called Bethesda Green, which is a nonprofit focused on supporting a local sustainability community. So we set up recycling bins. We have a green business incubator that we have helped support. And then, of course, in our partnership with TerraCycle, we also, every time the nonprofits send in the pouches, they get sort of pennies per pouch that goes back. And so those are ways that nonprofits can raise money through helping and get people involved in taking things out of the waste stream. And then we also have other partnerships with other partners like CityYear, the National AmeriCorps program, and we look to get involved with their local events, whether it's a service day or some kind of development program for the Corps members. So there's a lot of different ways we connect with communities. We also did last year, and we'll do it again this year, a large national recycling event called the Great Recycle, in which we put in a 30-foot high recycling bin, and we challenged the community to recycle as many bottles in a day as we sell in a day. And so we had a lot of fun. We launched that in New York City in Times Square, and last month we were in Florida with it, and we'll have that bin at other events around the country too.
That sounds really great. Great. Thank you for sharing all that. Seth, so we only have a few more questions to go before our time runs out. We have a question about your products being fair trade. Are all of your products and ingredients fair trade, or just some of it? And why is fair trade so important?
Sure. So no, our only products that are fair trade certified are our tea drinks, and it's just the tea that's certified fair trade. So fair trade is not a mark that is available on every ingredient. So For example, with our cranberry lemonade, you can't get fair trade cranberries, you can't get fair trade lemons. So, but with tea, there are fair trade ingredients available for everything except for the Tulsi, which we're still working on. For us, fair trade is important because it does a few things. Number one, it means that a third-party group is inspecting the working conditions of the tea gardens, making sure there's no child labor, no prison labor, and that the working hours and the wages being paid are meeting International Labor Organization standards. So that's an important step. But then beyond that, it also creates the structure whereby we can give back to the communities, not to the people who own the tea gardens, but to the cooperative set up by the workers that they can identify as one of their priorities, and they decide how the money is that we send back to them is reinvested.
Right. That's great. We have a few questions about, you mentioned that all products are GMO-free, wondering why that's not, more prominently labeled on your products.
Well, it's interesting. We were the first to make an organic product, and everything that we sell is organic, except that 3 of the Honest Fizz drinks are not yet organic. But organic is a seal that makes it clear that things are GMO-free. So we've always been champions of the organic seal. And of course, organic means GMO-free, but it means so much more. And we don't want to undermine organic by having to say, we could put organic on if we said GMO-free, pesticide-free, and irradiation-free, all these other things, then we're kind of being repetitive. So for us, hopefully everywhere you look on our product, you can spot the organic seal. And the GMO is just a small part of what the organic promise means. And so we have always, and I can assure you that the cost to make something organic is much more expensive than the cost to make something GMO-free, and much more, not just expensive, it takes much more work. It means when you're organic, you're certifying not just the gardens, but you have to certify the bottling plants, the supply chain, even the transportation. So it's a lot more of an investment there, and that's why we have always prioritized organic as the seal in our communications.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, thank you for answering that. And Seth, how big is the team behind Honest Tea?
We have 112 wonderful employees. They're all around the country. In our office in Bethesda, there's just about 35 of us, and we hire a few interns, so it grows over the year. But we, of course, now work, our larger expanded team is the rest of the Coca-Cola organization out there selling with us. So we're very fortunate to be able to connect with them and still have our own group of employees.
Right. That's great. And here's the final question of the day. A lot of people asking, where they can possibly find coupons, or where they can learn, kind of stay connected with the brand.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few ways. First of all, we have our Facebook page. We also have Twitter, and then we have our regular website. We also have a newsletter that comes out every month, and that people can sign up for at our website. I also have a blog that I publish on Inc.com, and it's actually, for parents who may be interested to read, I just published an article this week about why wrestling was such an important sport for me growing up. I was a terrible wrestler in high school. I was 1-12 my first season, and that's because somebody didn't show up one day. But and yet it was something that was really important for me, and I talk about how in these days of helicopter parents, I think the urge or the temptation is to shelter kids from any kind of adversity, and yet that's kind of where people rise to the challenges. So that's an example. But we always, and we do have coupons on occasion, but not regularly. But it's several times a year we'll issue coupons, and those are available. People find out about those through our Facebook page and our newsletter. And if I could, Andy, I just want to close with a few thoughts, because I did want to just circle back to China, and I want to just share first this thought that we all know the Margaret Mead quote, "Never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." I also think it's important that a small, thoughtful group of committed entrepreneurs can change the economy. A company like ours would not be created by a large company, but it might end up getting bought and supported by a large company. But it has to start with the entrepreneurs. And the only way that we succeed is when a large group of thoughtful, committed parents can raise the next generation that thinks about the conscious decisions that we encourage for people as when they buy our products. And then coming back to China, I wanted to share two last thoughts. First is one of our favorite bottle cap quotes: if we don't change the direction we are headed, we will end up where we are going. And of course, this is a truism, but it really is the case. You know, we're only going to see improvements in the American diet and in American eating habits when we can bring out products and encourage and instill behavior that takes people in a different direction. It's certainly not going to happen without that change. And I recognize that as hard work. You know, we've always knew we would sell more tea if we made our products sweeter or cheaper. But we insisted on doing it, you know, what we thought was the way we'd done it. And so as hard as that is, we also have a quote that says, those who say it cannot be done should not interrupt the people doing it. And we thank you all for listening and hope that you'll join us in you know, transforming the way we feed ourselves and our children.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. Thank you so much for answering all of our mom's questions. And everyone attending, thank you again for your time. And, you know, we're really looking forward to hearing your feedback once you try Honest Kids with your groups. And, you know, those who are sampling with your groups that still attended, we really thank you for your time. So again, you know, hope everyone has a good day. And we're going to go ahead and log off.